Hello, everyone, and we are live. Pio Marolla here from ThinkLinkers. Such a pleasure to have you all today for this amazing talk: human intelligence powering real innovation. Now, I'm here, of course, from the headquarters of ThinkLinkers in Prague, in the beautiful Prague in the Czech Republic. It's a sunny day, as you can see. There's some ray of light in the background, as you can see, and we're really lucky to have this weather, as usually right now we are more, let's say, we're closer to snow than to this kind of weather. So first of all, let us know, where are you from? Where are you connecting from? Actually, next week, I will be in Berlin. I will be in Berlin because we have an amazing in-person event that we're very happy to come back to after 3 years of break, for obvious reasons. So we have the Data Management Think Lab in Berlin again. 50 super excited data management professionals will come together to discuss the most pressing topics in the field, as well as trending topics. Of course, always with the mindset of revealing what is useful and what can concretely enhance data management rather than just, hype words. So we have first of all, Michael here. Great to see you, Michael. Natalia, of course, in Prague. She will be with me in the car traveling to Berlin. We have Irene, who we will meet next week. Such an exciting thing. And of course, we have also the USA watching. Now, as we were saying before, the topic of the day will be human intelligence. Now, we always and often talk about artificial intelligence. And don't get me wrong, of course, it's fundamental to speak about it, since artificial intelligence truly has a disruptive force. But it is also very important to keep in mind how important it is to cultivate human intelligence, because we still want to be the spark of innovation. We still want to put people at the steering wheel. So let's see who else we have here. Of course, the Netherlands here. We have Soren from Copenhagen. We have Christine from Norway. Fantastic. Now, and there's no one else in the world that I would rather talk about this than Brian Thomsen, the CEO of Astrocytia. Now, Astrocytia is truly a company that's a big friend of ThinkLinkers. They've been supporting us for 6 times, 5 times online or on our Master Data Marathon, but this time we will actually meet in Berlin next week. Astrocytia is the lead partner of the event, which means they will have plenty of time to discuss their original views on the topics of data management, MDM, innovation, and growth. And as you will soon see, Brian is a truly original mind when it comes to these topics. So, without any further ado, let's call up Brian Thomsen, CEO of Astrocytia.
Hi, Pio. Good to see you.
Hello, Brian. Pleasure to see you here with us today. And I'm looking forward actually to meeting you next week.
Definitely.
Now,
yeah, it's going to be a good time in Berlin, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and let's hope that we have an amazing weather like we have right now.
Yeah, please bring that, please. Yeah, that'll be good.
Very good, very, very good. Now, Brian, you've been with us many times, but for those in the audience that don't know about you yet, tell us something about yourself.
It's been a long journey of various roles. I've always worked within sales and marketing, so I love the graphical stuff, as you can see behind me. I love, the way of visualizing a message if it can be visualized. So that's what we try and do after 20 years in the market with master data. I'm actually trying to visualize both a vision but also graphically what master data can actually do for the businesses. So we're a global company, a boutique company you could call it, where we have consultancy everywhere from the whole strategic level through to implementation, but also training and coaching of both leaders and the operational level within the organizations. So it's been a hell of a journey with many different industries, where whether it's pharma or healthcare or fashion, lifestyle, manufacturing, there's a lot of the same issues. And that's what we pride ourselves in doing now, is gathering all that knowledge we've gathered across the years and then applying best practices for our customers all over the world.
Very good. Very good. Now, artificial intelligence. We talk about it all the time, but instead, we chose to speak about human intelligence this time as the true, spark for innovation.
Yeah.
Let's elaborate a little bit about this. What is human intelligence? How is that the spark of innovation?
Yeah, how old school is that, right?
Yep.
Humans. I think it comes out of a genuine curiosity, right? I also love software, I love systems, but it's always that kind of struggle between the systematic approach or the people approach. But I think we've all been in projects and in organizations where kind of the IT takes over and not really supporting us as humans. Because again, the systems aren't any better than the humans using it, and vice versa. So that connection between humans and that intelligence, we wouldn't have new technology, we wouldn't have new products without people having a passion for developing new products, thinking of new services, or actually having that passion to go out into new markets that haven't been discovered before. So artificial intelligence is great. I've had a department with 20 people working with nothing but artificial intelligence. But what it always came back to is master data. If we don't know our customers, if we don't know our markets and our assortments, if we don't know our internal processes, then there's literally no intelligence, and it's just dumb data. So that's what we try and kind of get a blossoming of knowledge and interconnectivity between people. So it's not only knowledge within the silos, the operational silos, but it's actually this connected organism all the way through. So you can start sharing knowledge and actually improving knowledge, so it becomes this learning organism.
Yeah, you touch on a few important points there. One being that, artificial intelligence is not some magic.
It's just math,
Reading.
if I'm honest, right? It's probability and outcome.
Exactly.
So it's, it can only provide you with historic stuff, right? It cannot predict what's gonna happen. It might give you a probability of areas, but nobody really knows what it does. So you have to ask the right use case to use artificial intelligence. But ultimately, again, it doesn't drive new things. It doesn't drive new innovation, right? So that has to come from people. If we don't have this curious mindset around what could we actually do if we started connecting things in a different thing. So customer data, product data, could we use some trends within the market? But if you don't have that good old school sense of knowledge, sense of actually wanting to move things within your organization or your department, nothing happens. So yeah, it's old school, people.
Yeah, and absolutely. I would say that knowledge. One thing we really believe in is that when it comes to knowledge, if you don't take knowledge and you don't start to debate over it, you don't start, picking things out and putting them to the test, then this knowledge is going to stay there, like something sterile that is not going to benefit anyone.
Yeah.
It's exactly this mixing and ping pong with ideas and debating over it and disagreeing with it and bringing different point of view that brings innovation, that brings the best of all the worlds that are connecting around knowledge.
Yeah, and again, when people are pressured up to this level of work, right? Tomorrow you have to do the same thing. maintain 17 different spreadsheets, maintain your SAP system or your CRM system. Where's the purpose in that, right? So again, the problem is when the knowledge leaves, it leaves with the people that are in that organization. So this is the hard part, right? It's literally getting the knowledge out of people's heads and having that shared knowledge across the organization. But obviously also merging that with master data so we can get the right information on the customers, on the right information on the products, on your services, etc., etc. But if you don't start connecting the dots between that, then that intelligence becomes stupid and you can't use it for anything. So I think everybody on this call as well, right? You know how dependent you are on people, but also on getting the right staff within the organization. And you can see that the level of complexity, just getting the right people across to your organization. It is very limited what's out there of good brains that you can actually hire to make your business better. So the whole point is also that when you onboard a new employee, that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there and they can start enhancing that instead of just inheriting bad habits and bad behavior. Bad governance we see everywhere, right? There's no ownership at all within organizations working with master data. And that's a huge issue because the next one that comes in gets a watered down version of what was there before. And before you know it, you've lost the overview, you've lost your customers, you've lost your place in the market. So having the human intelligence and also innovation and the creativity is really what drives the culture going forward.
Yes, indeed. And it's a very good point, actually. It's this human creativity connected to the foundations that master data provides enables new brains to start already from a solid foundation, right? Not everything gets lost every time someone new joins. And there is some comments here. Irene, of course, no knowledge without context, of course. Michael, no AI without HI. Glad to hear
exactly.
that. Agree with that. There's a good point here about Andy. By the way, happy to see you with us, Andy. Always. I think at some point AI would be able to predict as well to some extent. To which Michael commented, but you will have to feed AI with correct data. What do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as Irene said previously, it has to be in the right context, right? Because there's even the same master data that's shared across the organization, whether it's for purchasing, logistics, quality, sales, e-com, or whatever, right? It has a different context, even though it's the same field maybe in your master data setup. So if you're not getting it into the right context, are we looking at it from a sales perspective? Are we looking at it from an R&D perspective or quality perspective? So yes, of course, it can predict a lot of stuff, but it has to be, again, you have to use the right, let's say, X, Y's, and Z's in your formulas to get the right outcome. And as I said, if you haven't tried stuff before, it won't be in the data, right? So you simply cannot predict something that's not been tried before. Novo Nordisk, for example, has developed a completely new drug where you can actually just inject yourself and you don't eat as much as you did before. How could they predict that product going to the market and being a huge success? How could they predict that you need to build 7 new factories around the world to keep up with supply and demand, right? When you haven't tried it before, you cannot predict it. It's simply so that's the whole point of innovation, right? Huge growth, but also sustainable growth. Because if you don't know your business and the way you go to market and test out new things, and this is where, again, the human intelligence and master data and artificial intelligence can really come together with testing, A/B split testing. I think most of us have done it, right? But why not do A to Z testing? Try out different things, find out what are the results, and then feed that back into from the human intelligence into the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So I think again, it's a mindset, it's culture, and culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? So it can be hard, and this is also why we work a lot with change management, because if people are not aware of the why are we doing this? You don't get any passion, you don't get any commitment, you don't get any data governance. And that is the whole issue, that the ownership within the organizations when it comes to data and knowledge is totally scattered. But if you can find the purpose and the passion, then you have motivation. And if you have motivation, right, people stay on board. They keep developing, and your business becomes much, much better.
Yeah. There's a comment here exactly highlighting one thing that you mentioned: passion, driving the curiosity for going new ways and new concepts.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, there are some things that we do. Of course, there are some calculated risks that we take that are really driven by passion. Of course, having the solid foundations with the data management, with master data, and having ownership as well is what, enables us to take these calculated risks rather than random shooting in the dark. But yeah, passion is indeed an enormous driving force for innovation.
Yeah, it is. And again, I guess when we work with data governance and master data, right, that passion can be hard to find. And I think it also comes back to it's hard to explain what it actually is, right?
Yeah.
But like, again, Irene, with the context earlier on in the comments, if you're not making it relevant, then it's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
So it really has to be relevant for the people using the data or subscribing to that data. And I think that is kind of the secret sauce. If we can kind of spark those astrocytes within the organization so they start collaborating and actually working as a team instead of silos, you will see a completely different outcome. Also on your data quality, also on your ability to try out new things. We see a lot of stuff being out there like Knowledge Graph, Colibra, a lot of different softwares that's kind of evolved very quickly over time, where that becomes interesting, right? Can you create new levels of knowledge, but it still needs the right input? If it doesn't get the right data set and the right data model, you simply cannot digest what is actually up and down when I look at this beautiful data or crappy data that might be there hidden in all the silos.
Why do we have silos, and how do we break them?
Well, I think I've said it a few times before, but look at your organization chart, right? There you have your silos. I think the way of breaking silos is, as I said, that together we are stronger as a team within our department, but also getting people to network across the organization, because that is where the magic can happen, of saying, geez, do you do this in sales? I had no clue. I had no clue that this was your challenge. So how can we support you, dear salespeople, with the data you need to create the right offering for the market, to provide the right data for your customers? So again, it's getting that 360-degree view of where the human intelligence is being hindered of actually being intelligent. Because if you don't have the right data, how can you provide some feedback? There's a lot of gut feelings, but you cannot take gut feelings to the bank, or you cannot put it into Power BI, right? So at some point we need to quantify and to kind of decomponentize what the knowledge really is. Because if it's not relevant, it is not linked to your use case or your situation, then it's completely useless.
Why don't we have this sort of conversations in companies? Why is it so hard to put the business and, to put different departments together? And what is your experience? How did you help organizations come together as a whole?
It's actually kind of flipping it around to say, well, both on the operational level, what's in it for them, and on the management level, what's in it for them as well. Because you can actually turn it around to be very commercial. So of course, if you can have better data, you can sell better in the market. If you can have the knowledge carried across from R&D to the market, you can sell better, right? So it is around connecting people, but to answer your point very directly, there aren't many good leaders out there, because to be a good leader, you need to be engaged with your people. You need to be engaged with your organization. That means you need to step out of your office and
Yeah.
actually go down and talk to people. But you cannot put people into boxes. And I think that is the major challenge, that people are afraid of change. People are afraid of actually utilizing the change button and say, change is good, because if we don't change, we won't survive.
And to listen as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
That's
have to have that ratio with 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? And use it accordingly.
exactly in that proportion, indeed, because it's if you don't know what's in it for other departments, how do you know how to discuss, how to talk to other departments?
Yeah,
right?
And also that as I said, you have to have a lot of empathy as a leader. You have to have the ability to set yourself in somebody's situation. And if you don't know the pain points of your buying team, if you don't know the pain points of quality that don't have the right information or get reports 2 weeks too late, right? They're just being hindered of doing what they're actually passionate about. So it's hard to tackle people. It's hard to tackle emotions versus systems. Systems you can control, feelings you cannot.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to do, right? To be able to to manage it, let's say, or to use it accordingly to create an advantage rather than a disadvantage. Because, just as you said before, people are busy. They have their own departments, have their own challenges and their own problems, and work days are long and difficult, and there are things that you need to fulfill. So not everyone is willing to learn from scratch exactly, what does sales do, or what does the data management team do, or what is master data. We don't have this kind of luxury of time. We feel like we don't have this kind of luxury of time. But in reality, then when you start connecting the dots, you understand that, oh, actually my problem is your problem. Your data is our data, as Irene mentioned it before. Just as our business is our business, it's no longer a data versus business, versus thing. It's a we situation already, isn't it?
It is. And again, unfortunately, we see like our data would be great, right? But it's my data, and it's my data, and it's my data, it's my data. So people are very protective of their own data, but the problem is, if you don't get that commonality and that almost democratic approach to data and sharing data, contributing to data, both giving and taking, right? That is really key when it comes to this data collaboration, because it's just, again, if it's not relevant, it doesn't create any value.
Yeah. And I feel that the resistance to change comes from all sides. It's not like there is one specific side, the department, that is particularly resistant to change. It comes from those who work with data and those who are more, let's say, sales or marketing. It's a generalized situation where everyone is trying to be protective. And unfortunately, this by being overprotective, you're not able to solve so many problems that that would otherwise be solved. And we're talking about problems. But then there is the innovation part, which is the even more interesting one, because I don't know if it's your experience as well, Brian, but 10 years ago, when you would hear about data management, it would all be about cutting costs and avoiding fines. And right now, we also see, let's say, the light at the end of the tunnel, or the possibility for innovation, rather than just covering ourselves from a slap that can be, lack of compliance or something
Yeah,
like this. You see that too?
totally. And again, going back to the change management part, right? It's hard to change. Any change means that you're going from somewhere to somewhere else, right? We're lazy as people. Our brains are lazy. If we can just, power through the day without thinking too much, the brain is very happy. The problem is that when we see change, we fear it. So we either tackle it or we run from it. So that is why the change is so hard, because we're naturally programmed to run away from danger, and change can be dangerous. And I think that is the secret we're tackling every day, is that we create a forum where that experimentation and innovation is okay. It's actually required that you do that to actually succeed in your job. If you don't think of new ways of doing things smarter and automate within purchasing or finance or whatever, you'll stay the same place. So I think it's an incredibly important thing that both leaders and the operational level are facilitated into having this more open mindset, and actually that is expected from them. You can see the same thing with ESG coming out now, right? There's a lot of things you need to be aware of around the social responsibility, around environment, etc. And it's stuff that you don't have in your data. If you have it in your data, you're very lucky, I would say. So that it either you drive the innovation or the innovation will drive you. And I think that's a perfect example of stuff coming from the outside where we just need to freaking relate to it. Otherwise, you're not doing your reporting efforts and you will probably be punished. So sometimes legislation is good, and sometimes it's damn necessary to actually drive things forward. So talk about being in the same boat, right? We're all on this planet together, so let's make the best of it.
Indeed. Now the chat is getting, there are more and more questions coming in. I'm going to take every single one of them. Now we have a very good point. Yeah, a very good point here from Andy. A question about, first of all, a remark about organizations need good leaders. Good leaders are scarce. How can we break this vicious circle? Data should not be the talk around the coffee machine. What do you think, Brian?
I think we try and facilitate, as I said, this forum where it's okay to discuss, exchange ideas, and again that's what we try and do with ThinkLinkers, right? We connect minds, we connect different opinions, because it's in that tension field where you actually become smarter. And I think, as Andy said, it's around having people realize that sharing knowledge is not dangerous. You don't lose anything, you actually gain something. And as today, for example, I heard one of my colleagues or one of my ex-customers that are now in a situation where they cannot go out to events, they cannot go out and actually share knowledge because it's not the focus. You have to be inside of the organization. Well, what do you learn from that? You just scratch your own belly and sit around and think you're doing great.
The best,
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes even challenging yourself with other industries, and trust me, there's a lot of commonality within extremely different industries that you can learn from. But if you're not open and you're not open for that, then you need a big freaking coffee machine, as Andy says, to actually get that dialogue going. So you have to facilitate it as leaders. You have to facilitate it as an organization. Say, guys, seriously, there should be half an hour every week that you can connect with colleagues from other areas, virtual coffee breaks, do whatever, because whatever you do, it's better than nothing.
And I think leadership skills were always important, but they're particularly important at a time where repetitive tasks are being automated. So you're called to become the leader of the powerful tools that you have now to manage, but also a leader of opinion and a thought leader for your department, because you're no longer going, perhaps you're no longer going to shine because of things that will be replaced. Instead, now you need to become the strategic mind, or you need to become the person who is able to connect other people. So to shine in communication, or to shine when it comes to listening to different people, which, by the way, active listening is one of the key leadership skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, listening is completely necessary, but you can also expand your ears further out, so to speak,
Yeah.
to connect with your customers. How many of within the master data team had actually been out talking to the clients that buy your products or your services? The answer is maybe 1%, right? But
Yeah.
why aren't we talking to the customers? They are the ones that pays our salaries. It's not the organization. They're only there because there's customers at the other end buying the services or products or knowledge that they sell. So just that one fragment of being more connected to the customers is just as important as being connected internally.
100%.
Strategic sourcing suppliers, right? When have you talked to your suppliers the last time? What do they provide of new services and knowledge that you can leverage within your value chain, that you can provide new services or new products or new innovation?
Yeah, we've heard about customer centricity a lot this last few
Yeah,
years, and
yeah,
I think sometimes I'm trying to sort out, is that just a buzzword? Because if you're saying you're customer centric, but you don't have your data to back it up,
yeah,
how is it a guess? So again, it's one more reassurance of the fact that you need solid data foundations in order to really know your customers and to be able to listen, just as with sustainability. I remember we
yeah,
talked about it in the past.
yeah,
Do you know your
absolutely.
suppliers? Do you know what they're giving you? Are you able to are you able to sort out a way to become more sustainable in the foreseeable future, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's we usually divide it into three elements. So it's the R&D manufacturing side of things. That's one part of the sustainability. Then there's the distribution. So how do you consolidate your goods or your services, and how do you sort of prepare it for the market? So packaging tax, for example, is a huge issue for a lot of companies, and it's one of the worst governed areas of master data typically. What is your bill of material on your packaging and the way you ship, whether you're using third-party freight suppliers or you're doing it yourself, right? Then there's the selling bill of material when you actually take your products to the market, transportation from your distribution center, or shipping from various locations to perform a project or sell to your wholesalers, your clients. So there's a lot of things that can, if you have the right data foundation, you can actually create that intelligence on
Yeah.
top of it. So you have that value chain. You can provide the human intelligence. You can provide the transactional intelligence. So how much stuff is actually moving? How do we spend the money? How do we distribute the money? And where do we earn our profit? And then apply the CSR on top of that and the ESG on top of that value chain. So the whole data foundation, it's a reason why it's called foundation.
Yes, indeed. There's a question from Victor. What will the impact of AI be on real human innovation beyond the level of an organization? So, and he continued, on the level of the economy or society. What do you think, Brian?
I think where the artificial intelligence can really help beyond the organization is to say, well, if we have complete control over our value chain, our raw materials, for example, and this is just an example, right? But if what's the trend in the market? Where do we see the number of buildings going in certain countries? In the UK, it might be booming. In other countries, it might be dropping like a bomb, right? So that level of intelligence to say, okay, if this particular products or these services start booming, how will that affect the value chain? Then suddenly you can take it beyond the organization, like you say, Victor, and then say, well, okay, what's the environmental impact? It's not only that it's CO2, it could be the use of water, right? So I think pair of jeans is 10,000 liters of water in the whole value chain. It's completely crazy, right? So what can this do, and then have that both downstream and upstream effect, and then suddenly you're looking at less footprint, but you're also looking at not destroying the whole environment where you have that factory or that sourcing that many seem to outsource.
Yeah, it has higher implications. And I think, AI can help in many ways, but there is again the key thing is that we input what we want AI to do,
Yeah.
right? If we don't
I
do
think
that,
if it can automate, the boring stuff, the manual stuff, right? It's great, because then we free up what's most important. That's time. If you don't have time, you don't have the chance to reflect. And if you don't reflect, you're just looking at the same mirror you've done the last 10 years. So it's it's an interesting topic.
indeed, and it's a good time to already start going out of the bubble and out of the comfort zone, because it seems like many jobs that are in a certain way today will be affected. It doesn't mean they will disappear, but they will be affected by automation. So it's already good to start thinking in terms of how can I add value, right, within this framework. And it doesn't necessarily need to be as a prompt engineer, It
Nope.
doesn't necessarily need to be that. So there is a lot of time that can be invested into reawakening what is missing from many jobs and what would make many jobs more interesting, which is creativity, which is a mindset oriented towards innovation, reawakening passion, and all those things that make every day more interesting than yesterday.
Exactly. Because it's that level of commitment and engagement with both the employer and the employees, right? So if you can find that common sense and common purpose of actually, being able to move stuff, and as Victor says, with outside of the organization as well. Again, passion sells. That's just the way it is. If you
Indeed.
don't, power through on what you believe in, your customers won't either. So, yeah.
And as we know, customers are more and more interested in what companies believe in.
Totally. And you can see that whether it's the fashion business or whether it's everything else, sustainability is almost, I think it's around, was it 50% or something from a decision when people start to look for new places to be employed. So that culture is really key. And again, if culture is not what you feel part of something bigger, right? That is so important for us as people, that we know that we make a difference every day we go to work. That's a huge change, right?
Indeed, the alternative is alienation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, getting back, what can people do? Because again, we went through this, meaning the role of the data manager, the role of the master data team will be affected too. I believe it's part of this 85% of the jobs that will be affected by artificial intelligence. So what are the skills? How can let's say the new data manager of tomorrow flourish in this age?
It's a journey, definitely, because you should also think of that there are certain people, there are certain types that all of us that loves data, we're kind of the blue people loving structure, etc. But when structure becomes a hindrance of doing what you're good at, we have to turn it around from being data managers to being data innovators instead, data collaborators instead. We cannot keep going the same way, because who in the room loves data governance? Well, the data governance people, right? The rest of the organization hates it. So we need to turn it around and be much more outgoing and actually providing value, translating what we can see that, okay, this little data set can actually do that. We get more product intelligence, or we get better margins when we do our sourcing. So as data managers, you have to be much more outgoing. You have to be much more visual of saying, well, again, in the relevant departments, what does it mean for me? So it's a change in mindset, and it's a change in the way that we sell ourselves within the in the organization. Because as I see it, a lot of the problems is that, well, SAP HANA S4 is flying out there. Fantastic. They get a $10 million budget. Congratulations. But where's the organization to support it, right? So the problem is there's a lot. It's hard to get attention, because what you need is a people organization. It's not an IT organization you need. It's great. It needs to be run fine, but you still need an organization behind you that can go out and challenge the business and can actually create the real value out of data and that human intelligence we're talking about right now.
Yeah, sometimes I hear this. I remember last year, 2 years ago, every modern company is a data company. That kind of statement. I get it. I understand what they mean, but I just don't like this statement, because I feel like it takes the people out of the equation.
Yeah. It's already in a box, right?
Yeah.
Where's the value?
Yeah, go and explain to a company, to a to a company with 300 years in the business making toys out of wood, that they're a data company. No, it just doesn't resonate with many organizations. Instead, it's about making these structures that we mentioned before, structures that are supportive and that are more like a springboard to all the things you want to do anyway, rather than obstacles. Because the perception sometimes is this, that all these structures are obstacles. So you don't want to get to talk about data governance, because it feels like everything slows down and everything becomes clunky. Instead, presented in a different manner, it's part of the structures that constitute the foundations and the springboard for all the things you want to do.
Yeah,
innovation, exactly. AI, whatever that is.
Exactly. And it is as I said, both the time saving that you can actually create a good structure. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a monolith, right? So because the world changes all the time. So you have to keep having a dynamic data model. You need to have a dynamic organization that can actually keep growing with wherever your customers or the market needs to go. And again, you can either follow the market or you can create the market. And I think that's an interesting aspect when we talk to leaders, right? You really need to step up the game here, because otherwise it's just you're the same as everyone else. And then it comes down to one thing, and that's bloody price. Price. That's it. You can't compete on that.
Yeah. Indeed. Andy, I think the master data manager should transcend beyond AI, embrace the evolutions that are taking place around data, and let them inspire to reinvent data governance.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's spot on, really. And I like the word transcend as well. It's such a cool word.
Yeah.
So it's brilliantly written. It has so much cool stuff. Transcend, embrace, evolution, right? It literally frames what we should do, because there's so much more potential out there that if we're not evolving, we're just being stagnant. So that's why we need to come to Berlin, right, Pio?
Oh, indeed, indeed, and that's a great thing about having all these amazing ideas in a room and take some things. I mean, you can see here, Andy's comment already deserves to be written on a on the wall of fame of MDM. I believe it's already a very good representation of what MDM should be about transcending. And this aspect about adaptability as well with the time, because things evolve, right? We've seen it all. We see it all the time. And about evolution, you had a very interesting point. We talked about it in the past about how to evolve, accepting failures, and why failing in the right manner is not that bad of a thing. What about that? Can we elaborate on this point?
Yeah, of course, because if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. I think I've said a few times. You need to expand your comfort zone, basically, both from a process perspective and a data perspective, right? So if you're not trying new things, trying to see new connections, again, systems can do a lot of things. They can see a lot of connections we probably can't see, but again, it's just historic, right? It doesn't tell you what your customers want in 5 years, right? So in that level of experimentation, you just have to really be able to create that environment, as I said. Create your own innovation lab, create your own knowledge sharing, create your own way of collaborating in a new way. So you need to allow that level of experimentation, because that's honestly where the magic happens. Interview new customers. You don't know that are your customers yet. Get some qualitative data, right? Do some surveys, do something else where you can, again, enrich your master data, whether it's on the client side or the product side. Just these two things, clients and products. Ask them, what do you need?
Yeah, indeed. Now, Irene suggests, first of all, agrees very much with your statement and suggests fail faster.
Yeah. And also what I really enjoy with what we do is the rapid prototyping. Try it out, visualize it, connect your data in a different way, simulate a click. What could you actually achieve if you click this button? Getting that gamification of data and the way you could connect data in a different way is extremely fruitful. And you need a bit of that crazy mindset. And I think that's, again, part of the secret sauce of what we do. Gamify, make it relevant, and try out new things and visualize it. People can then connect to that. You can say, okay, how do we take it to the next step? Can we actually set up a data model that supports this semi-crazy idea?
Which is fantastic, because the problem sometimes is exactly that you cannot visualize it. You cannot imagine what's going to happen after 5 years working on a data on an MDM project, and maybe you don't like the results. Instead, this simulation versus or simulation, or let's say failing faster, or creating models that allow you to pick into maybe not such a crazy idea, is a way to help people visualizing and take perhaps even, let's say, calculated risks.
Yeah, and to be honest, it also helps, I would say, that this crowd here in this call, right, to prioritize. What do we need to prioritize first? Because I'll bet you that everyone in this call has maybe 50 different initiatives you would like to start, right? But get it out there, get it tested, get it validated. What is the most important thing? And it might be incredibly important for one department, but completely irrelevant for the other one. But if you don't get that connectivity and common, say, this is priority one, guys, this is what we need to work on, then again, you're working on something that people won't own afterwards anyway.
Exactly. It's an initiative that will fall flat, basically, if there isn't this level of. I mean, if it often happens, right, that it falls flat. Now, of course, I'm looking forward to meeting you next week for the second time. We met once, actually. Um, it was still, I think, it was still difficult to travel when we met.
Yeah, it
But
was.
we managed. But yeah, next week we're gonna meet. Can you tell us a little bit what you're gonna talk about in Berlin? Give us a sneak peek.
Yes. So what we're going to talk about is again the psychology of change, the psychology of master data, because there's, as I said, there's some physiology and some psychology behind why change is very hard, why innovation is hard, why systems versus people is hard to tackle. So what we'll talk about is the reactions towards change, and also what kind of tools we use as part of that change management part. How do we sell master data in an easier way? How do we make it relevant? How do we make it interesting? Not only for the C level, but actually also on the operational level, because they're typically very not attached. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
So it's aligning again company strategy towards the human goal. So you get again that psychology behind it of actually making it relevant and making that common goal towards master data using psychology. So it's a very different angle, but it has, trust me, some pretty heavy hitters when it comes to aha moments.
oh, I'm sure. I mean, I already have questions in my mind that are coming, but then I'm thinking, there's gonna
We'll
be
save
spoilers.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna save it because it's really interesting. There is so much stuff that goes on
yeah,
before we even start touching software. At the end,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Very good, Brian. So, how can people find out more about Astrocytia, about you? How can they ask you more questions and connect with you?
Yeah. And we're always up for new connections. We love engaging with people in different mindsets in different organizations. So obviously you can go to our website, astrocytia.com, but you can also connect with us at connects@astrocytia.com. And again, if you have any relevant questions or doubts on how can I get this into our organization, we have the tips and tricks to help you. So again, you could also email me personally. The email is brth@astrocytia.com. Happy to engage. Connect on LinkedIn. Always a good way to connect as well. Start the journey. So yeah, all
Very,
channels are open.
very good. Of course, a great suggestion here by Irene. Come to Berlin. That's the easiest way to connect to Brian. And actually, now that you mentioned, what is the number one resistance you face when trying to create these collaborative workshops in organizations?
It's habit,
Mm.
habit and behavior, right? We've had our habits for many years, and it's grown over into something we think we're in control of. So we like being in control. So changing of habits is the most challenging that we face. But the good news is we also have an approach to tackle that and actually improve the organization through behavior and training and coaching and good examples and
Very
prototyping.
good. It sounds like it goes far beyond MDM.
It does, because that's the whole reason for this session, right? It is getting the humans to interact. It is around getting the real value out of yourself as people and out as an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to thank everyone in the audience, of course. I want to thank Irene, for the wise comments. I want to thank you, Michael, as well. I want to thank Andy and everyone who joined us today for this discussion. We're going to have more of these discussions, of course. And don't forget, of course, that Brian is here on LinkedIn. So connect with Brian and ask more questions. I'm sure, Brian, you will be happy to answer them. And until then, Brian, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your enduring support of our initiatives, of course, for helping us sharing knowledge and taking an important role, of course, in facilitating this sharing of knowledge. And I really look forward to see you next week in Berlin.
Thank you so much, Pio. See you there.
See you all. Bye now.
Bye.